Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Collector's Company Card Gaming. We're here with Alan Liu, who came fourth place on the weekend at OCE Regionals. Well done, Alan Liu. He did it with Goku Black, no less, which is a deck that has not seen much play in the competitive scene. Why don't you tell us about how things went?
Thanks for having me on the channel. I played Goku Black. It overall went pretty well. I lost to Peter right here. He demolished me on stream with
Sorry.
his Cell deck, discarding, I think it was like nine. He took 9 cards from my hand that turn, 9 or 10. That was pretty nasty, but otherwise the deck performed pretty well. It's got some cool indestructible things that's essentially this deck's edge.
I mean, that's one of the great things, especially when red and yellow aren't particularly doing amazing in the meta, specifically like yellow Saiyan leaders. It allows your indestructible things to thrive. So,
Pretty much.
why don't you walk us through the deck?
Sure. So, this is a reboot leader, the Goku Black leader from the Ultimate deck. I think when the deck first came out with Red Sin, Gogeta, and like the Zeno, the Black Zeno running around, there just wasn't a time for this deck to thrive, honestly. But I guess like once those cards got banned, I think people started overlooking this leader. It has some really cool interactions, like cool things that it can do. So on the front side, what the leader does is when you attack with a Zamasu or Goku Black battle card, you draw one. Unfortunately, this is a bit worse than the standard on-swing draw ones because it doesn't include himself. One skill that he shares amongst like him, the backside, and the Z leader is the fact that he can essentially put a card from your life to your energy. And at the end of the turn, you put a card from your energy to the drop, and you can only do this once across all copies of across all sides of this leader, and he either awakens when you have a Zamasu 3-cost Z battle card in play, or at 4 or less life. It's a draw to awaken. The backside is pretty much the same, except it got a slightly better where you attack with any Zamasu or Goku Black card, you draw one. This life effect is still this energy ramping effect is still the same. And this is a Z leader, which is again pretty similar. But instead of adding a card from life to energy, you add a Goku Black from your Z energy to energy, and again you have to lose energy at the end of the turn.
That's pretty neat. That gives you a great way of recycling your resources that you've used later in the game, or earlier in the game even, to just sort of recruit things. That's quite cool.
Yeah, for sure. You can also recycle a super combo, which I'll go through later.
Ugh. That's basically the meta right now.
So yeah, pretty much. So basically, essentially, the play lines for this deck is pretty straightforward in the early games, I'd say. Where because turn 1 you can't really do anything. The best thing to do is probably play a cantrip and then combo that off to get Z energy. So on turn 2, you want to use his skill, put a card in energy, so you have 3 energy, play out the Zamasu, and Z stack the Goku Black underneath it. And then you swing with the Zamasu, proc the leader's draw, and then awaken Dream and attack normally, and then you swing with the Lin and proc the draw on the backside. So that's pretty much your turn 2 play in like 90% of cases. I'll just go through the Z deck first. So for the Z deck, we've got the Z leader, obviously. I run 2 copies of this Zamasu indestructible card. So this guy is a 15k indestructible blocker. He restands when an energy is put into the drop by a leader skill at the end of the turn. So that's basically off the leader skill when you lose the energy that you rammed. This guy restands, so you can swing with him, and he comes back as active during your opponent's turn. I run 1 copy of this Goku Black. So this is a card that Zamasu normally Z stacks, and he can be played for 1 from underneath it. He has an on-swing order that's not like super relevant, can help you get a Z energy, but the main thing is that he can help as a body for Union Patara when you play it from underneath, and he can be useful against red because he buffs your Zamasu by 15k on your opponent's turn. Not that red is super relevant, but he can be useful in that regard.
Just in
and
case.
then for the rest,
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Yep, and then for the rest of the Z deck, it's just the standard like 2 BS, 1 cell. Didn't really play these cards over the weekend, but you include them because they're just generically good blue cards.
Of course, they're very strong.
So I guess going on to with what I played in the deck. So as I said, turn 1 you're probably best off playing a cantrip. So we do have like the most. These are like probably the most generic like best cantrips in blue. Like Piccolo doubles up as like a 2 energy beta, which is great, as well as Pad being barrier cantrip is also really good. One of the things I came up against Golden Freezer today was I played the Pan, swung with the Pan, gave the Pan to the opponent, and swung into that Pan to like deny my opponent the life, and as well as blocking the leader's draw.
That's quite brilliant.
So just some extra things you can do. And this is also essentially a cantrip, Pilaf Shun Mai. It's like the counter attack that on play draws 1, and if it's your opponent's turn, you can negate one of your opponent's a keyword skill on one of your opponent's cards. It has some interactions with some cards, like with the 7-drop Zamasu that I'll go into later. But it also has some. It's probably arguably the best thing you can play into Green Gohan. If you're going second, they've got the Vegeta Trunks out, and because if the Vegeta swings, this is probably the best thing you can open up with against them, because when the Vegeta swings, it combos the Trunks and draws 1, and then like if you counterattack that skill, that attack, the Pilaf comes in, negates the critical, and bottom decks the Trunks that wouldn't give it the Z energy. So it's just probably also one of the best generic blue cantrips.
I remember when you told me about that play over the weekend, it completely blew my mind as to how much that destabilizes the play. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, it certainly puts in work. You need all the help you can get against Green Gohan these days.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so these are like just the ideal like cantrips. They're pretty useful later on because they're just like good cards generically. So generally the ideal turn 1 play.
Mm-hmm.
So then now I'm going on to the main engine of this deck. So this is the main indestructible package that came with the ultimate deck.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is built upon this Zamasu and Goku Black Z battle card. So this so how it works is you need to Patara this 6-drop on top of Zamasu Z battle card and any Goku Black card, and then this 7-drop evolves for 2 on top of the 6-drop as long as you have 4 more energy. So ideally you want your turn 3 play against most decks, so every deck except for like red decks and Goku Vegeta yellow decks, you want to ideally get this out on turn 3. And how you do that is, so turn 2 you would have gotten these 2 cards out. Turn 3 you either play this guy out, or you can play him for 1 if you have 4 more energy by using your leader skill to ramp 1, and then you just tar over these 2, and then evolve this the 7 over the 6.
Wow.
It does have a neat ability. The 6 does have a neat ability where when the 7 evolves over him, you untap 1 at the end of the turn, so you're not completely defenseless.
Oh.
And this 3-drop is just a generic. It's essentially a 1 energy cost. It costs 1 energy if you have an indestructible Zamasu in play, and you have 4 more energy. And he's a 20k critical that searches the top 5 for a Goku Black or Zamasu. So it replaces itself. It's a nice 20k crit beta, and you can just Patara over him once you're done with him.
That's incredible value for 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess in terms of like my ratios, I only ran 3 of each because realistically I feel like you're only going to go into this once. And any other copies can be pretty dead. And secondly, if I ever played against red and yellow, I didn't want to have too many cards to side out because it's just harder to replace cards.
That makes complete sense. The Goku Black Z battle card that you have there, if it remains underneath the stack, it would keep giving the plus 15k even to the 6 and 7 drop, wouldn't it?
It would, yes.
That is fantastic. That makes the 7 drop of 40k on your opponent's turn.
But realistically, it's indestructible already. The power does not matter unless you're up against red.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, it gives you a little bit of defense if red does come up, but yeah, no, that's good to know.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think, I guess my plan against red was I probably wouldn't bother with the extra investment. Like, because if against red, this card would be 30k. The Z cards alone would be 30k. I think that's probably enough if they really wanted to kill it. So I'd probably just stay on this, and it's probably not worth the investment to go up.
that
Even
makes
though
sense.
this 7 drop is absurdly powerful.
Yes.
Oh, I should probably talk about the 7 drop a bit more.
That'd be good.
So what he does is he's a double strike indestructible blocker. He restands at the end of the turn when one of your energy goes to the drop, so much like the 3 drop and the 6 drop as well. And he has a very neat auto which says when he attacks or when a Goku Black card is placed into your Z energy, you can draw 1 card and bottom deck any of your opponent's battle cards.
Wow.
So whilst this does not ignore barrier, obviously this card is incredible. Like each turn he sticks, he just gains so much value because he draws a card and bottom decks and clears threats on your turn and your opponent's turn. You can also combo him with Pilaf and Mai to like kill cards, ignoring barrier and indestructible on your opponent's turn. If you counterattack this, and then after you combo Goku Black, Z charge it and then just remove it.
Well, that's a very easy way to remove an 8-drop Gohan.
It most certainly is, yeah. But you might have to block the attack because PLF Mai does not negate, but it does clear it very well.
That is true. Yes. Oh, you're getting halfway there, but with just the card, so that's pretty good. But wow, that's you have this really well thought out.
Yeah. So I guess this is like the main thing I wanted to play. I'm personally not playing the Tragedy Overground variant. I know people have been talking about that. I think it's a bit hard to get off in my opinion because you need 4 open energy and an established Goku Black and Zamasu on board already, and you're probably not doing that realistically until turn 4, and I think that's a little bit too late for my liking.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think there is some argument like you could do like if you played like the Zamasu Cosmic Trader stuff, but that just didn't seem too consistent to me.
That's the 1-drop that ramps, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the 1-drop that ramps.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of him either. The whole RNG ramp is just too risky in general.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess for the rest of the deck, we do just play like a bunch of generically good blue cards. So like the 4 defending friends.
Mm-hmm.
In the event that you do not manage to get the 7-drop on turn 3, like this guy's still a Z card, so you have your floodgate ready. So that's pretty cool.
Of course, that's very powerful. Especially behind an indestructible Z battle card.
Precisely. Because you negate with him, and the indestructible eats up the next attack, and your opponent probably doesn't want to swing anymore.
No, I'd be done.
And then, because our leader does require, this engine does require some Goku Black cards from the Z leader and from the 7-drop, we do play some generically good Goku Black cards. So this is Countdown to Destruction is when you have 5 energy, you can free play it out. It's just the on-play draw one. And you can't play copies of him for the turn. So most of the time this is just a free 5k combo or a free body to rest against yellow. And it can be a free evolve target for one of the cards in my side deck.
I see.
This is Mortal's Beacon. Everyone knows what this card does. Just a good generic card.
One of the most represented blue cards.
Yeah, I'd say that this deck doesn't generate too much energy, so he didn't come out too frequently, but it's just still a good, one of the best Goku Blacks around.
That makes complete sense.
And then the one of counter, he honestly doesn't come up too much, but you can play him for 2. Like he is a 5 energy counter, but he can come up for 2 if you have a Zamasu with indestructible in play. He also bottom decks a card, and I think he can restand the 7-drop the 7-drop Zamasu as well for an extra swing.
Wow. And I mean, look, an unthemed counter, that's also a 5k combo. Why wouldn't you run it? Just makes
of course
sense.
Yeah, having counters is always good. And then I guess to finish off the generic good blue cards, two SGLs, just good for post battle removal as well as mid battle interruption. And two of the new oobs. I feel like because people are aware how good oob is, it's getting easier to play around. Most decks, in my opinion, except for red and maybe some blue decks, don't need to have absurdly high amounts of Z energy, so they can just stay at 1 Z energy and just deny this oob. But overall, it's still a very good card.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the threat of it is... It's one of those cards where the threat of it is sometimes better than it is. But being able to lock your opponent to essentially... Well, pseudo-lock your opponent to 1 Z energy is nice, but I completely get where you're coming from. It's good when it gets to come in.
Yeah. And it does make your opponent like be cautious with how much Z energy they have, so...
Absolutely.
And then the one Boo Unison, enough said, this is, great.
Yep, it's just an extra secret rare. It's very nice.
In terms of my super combo choices, it's 2 Xeno and 2 of the Goku Black.
Oh.
So, Goku Black I run is, firstly because he's Goku Black, he's searchable by the 3-drop. Xeno is the other super combo I run, for 2 reasons. The first I guess is that this deck doesn't have a lot of untap, and also going second, playing your Zamasu battle card taps you out, and a lot of the time you don't want to, and especially if you're going second, that leaves you really vulnerable. So extra ways to untap is never bad.
No, that makes
and
sense.
Also, Zeno can also kind of loop this because with your Z leader, after you combo this card off, your Z leader can put this in your energy. The energy you bin doesn't have to be the card that you put into your Z energy.
Oh, wow.
And Zeno can pick this right back up.
That's cheeky. I love it.
So yeah, and then my SCR I played was Beast Hunt. It didn't really. It won me one game, but I think that game I was already winning, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, still a great SCR though.
Oh, that makes complete sense. It's still absurdly powerful, and yeah, it's just such a good card to have.
For sure. And I guess the rest of the deck is just like the standard defensive blue package. It's pretty common. It's the 3 beam, the 3D magic, the 2 UIs, and the 2 realms.
Yep. No, that makes complete sense. Again, all generically good cards. Was there anything in particular that you had realm to hit, or is it more just there's a pseudo super combo?
Realm, yeah, I've normally had realm around as a pseudo super combo. I feel like in this deck, because I don't have too much energy manipulation, realm probably didn't feel as good, whereas the other cards just, like, these cards were great for untap, this thing was great offensively, and realm was probably the least used out of all of these cards.
I see. I mean, it is also removal in a pinch as well, which
it is.
Can be good. Yeah, no, just curious. I think I wouldn't say seeing less of realm, especially not with Soul Striker topping a lot. Yeah, no, it's just still good to see. It's still such generically strong blue cards as well.
Yeah, of course. So that's it for the main deck. It's a pretty tight 50. I guess like the main strength of this deck, in my opinion, is just the ability to stabilize on the 7-drop indestructible. It's just so good, as well as being backed up by a lot of the generic good, powerful blue cards.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. And obviously, with how you did for the day, your game plan worked perfectly. Yeah.
And then in terms of sideboard, because as mentioned before, this deck is quite weak to like red decks and Goku Vegeta yellow decks, and that's just because they have such an easy time removing your 7-drop or 7-drop or your other, or just this Zamasu, your indestructible cards. So against those matchups, I think my strategy was just to side out the 7-drop and the 6-drop, and maybe some of the 3-drops as well, because they're not too relevant on it, like, because you're not trying to play the indestructible stuff, you're just trying to play like a generic good stuff blue package.
Mm.
So I guess to that end, I was gonna decide in these cards. These are just generically good cards against like aggro matchups.
Okay.
I guess in my main deck, I'm not maining any black cards or non-blue cards because I don't want to hit a black, like ramp a black card and then my turn ends and I just critted a life for no reason.
That makes sense.
So, but if I'm playing against like red or yellow, where I don't really need to go to this, it's worth the risk, in my opinion.
I see. And what about the baby Z battle card? I'm pretty sure that's baby. Why is that there?
So this is again against like red and yellow. So because this Zamasu is like it's just great. But it's great against colors that are not red and yellow. So I would side out one copy of this and put this in. The idea of this baby is that his skills don't matter except for the fact that he has barrier. So it's a one energy, one Z energy, just 5k barrier. And so what this enables us, it just turns on to make defending friends live straight away, as well as this gives me access to decisive strike.
I see. That's a card I have not seen in a very long time.
So what the card does is, if you have a blue Z battle card in play, if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 3 or less, it's bottom decked instead, and you can activate it for free by bottom decking one card from your hand. You need a blue Z battle card in play, and I guess my reason for picking I'm personally not a fan of desperate measures because I don't like giving my opponent the floodgate back to their hand just for them to use it again.
That makes sense, yeah. And
as well as, I guess just turning on having defending friends live is great, and then having this to back it up would also be pretty good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the ability to do it for free, if you absolutely need to, is, always a plus as well.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the rest of the side deck is just 2 copies of Gotenks Absolute Unison. This is just for easier barrier removal. I don't want to always have to rely on Beerus, and good against yellow because it's a Unison that can clear their very annoying barrier threats as well as swing twice. So yeah,
that makes sense.
And I think for me, I prefer, because this deck's outside of the 7-drop, I don't think I have like too much removal, and playing a Unison that can help clear threats is just, in my opinion, it feels better than playing like a Unison that just draws like Baby, because you haven't really dealt with your opponent's board, and they can still hit you with those threats, or like you use them to clear your Unison or swing lead, and so I just prefer something more interactive.
No, that makes sense. Plus, Baby tends to just be a lightning rod for aggression once it gets out anyway. So this way you get your full value, and then if he leaves, you don't really care.
Yeah, because he would have already cleared some bodies, like soaked up an attack, and then it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then this is probably one of the main reasons I did play this deck. It's Goku Black Lofty Aspirations. This card is very powerful against the slower control decks and can really help you win those matchups. So what he does is he evolves for 4 energy on top of a Goku Black, either in your battle area or in your energy. So with this deck, I did play Countdown to Destruction, which comes out for free when you have 5 or more energy. And on play, when your opponent has 5 or more energy, you can choose 2 of your opponent's energy and put it in the drop.
Wow. I am also a very big fan of this card. It is fantastic, and if your opponent is not familiar with Goku Black or Zamasu, which most people are not, they don't expect to suddenly go from 5 to 3 energy when they were expecting to defend. It's it's a beautiful card. It is so powerful, and I'm so glad it's not generic.
For sure, it's so nasty that I guess like obviously you making an opponent lose 2 energy is really good, but the best part of it is that you can like choose like remove 2 of your opponent's active energy and just leave them defenseless.
Did it win you any games?
Sorry?
Did it win you any games?
Yeah, really helped against the Android 16. He was playing the green one, so he had the he had 2 energy open for the full power counter, so I just played this. Um, Took that 2 energy away, and yeah.
That would have been a very rude surprise.
He's also a 30k triple strike, so that's never a bad thing.
No, of course. It's we'll take that little extra part. The important thing is the energy, but yeah, that's it's such an amazing card though.
No, I feel like because normally I'd be hesitant to play blue because Android 20 like both Android 21 decks exist, but I feel like this deck in particular has a good blue a good matchup into both either Android 21 decks because you gain so much value off this 7-drop. This thing like gets its can attack through a full power counter, as well as the 8-drop. You can like clear the 8-drop on your opponent's turn as well. So it's like they're losing a lot of value from it. And coupled with the fact that this just punishes them from ramping, it just makes those matchups a lot easier.
Oh, that's very true. Did not consider that at all. Wow. So maybe Goku Black was the secret meta all along.
Yeah, I think honestly, I just think people overlooked it once. Like once the deck came out, obviously when the deck first dropped, it was not right. It was not the right meta for it. But I think people probably just forgot it. Seems like people just forgot about it afterwards. So yeah,
definitely.
And then to finish with the sideboard is 2 Dabura and a Mafuba. Whilst I don't like running black cards, I think it is a necessary evil against green. And the Mafuba is just honestly for like any bombs, like Golden Cool SCR, but you can do a similar thing with like the 7-drop plus a P left shoot and my.
No, that makes complete sense. I imagine Mafuba is also good into in Gohan as well, just to stop you having to crit a life and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing the deck with us, Alan. Do you have any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, shout outs to all the guys at my locals. That's Jono and Dennis. Shout out to Max as well as you guys for always doing so well and as well as always topping. Always making the game exciting.
Well, I mean, we try. Sometimes we don't do it so successfully, but we appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, well, thanks again, man, and congratulations on coming 4th place again with Goku Black. I'm repeating that for everyone. Go out and get the deck. Clearly, it has some legs, and hopefully we'll see more of it, and hopefully we'll see more of you in the future. Thanks again, Alan.
For sure. Thanks.